Quarterback Daniel Jones made some headway in the quarterback battle here in training camp, but it had little to do with his overall play. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and my partner, Jake Arthur, is our credentialed sandals on the ground for the site. Today, guys, we have yet another training camp practice to recap for you. Day 8 of Colts camp. The pads are still on. Were the pads on today, Jake? I said that without even checking.
They were. Yeah, they were.
They were on. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I figured, but again, we're showing how we cross-reference each other on the show a little bit here. But we're going to do our typical breakdown, guys. News and notes, quarterback competition, offense, defense, give you the whole lowdown of today's training camp practice. Before we get into this quarterback competition, though, Jake, we do have some updates on injuries and also a roster move that we missed talking about yesterday. A familiar face is back with the Indianapolis Colts, Chris Lamons. They can't keep him away. He is back on the team, and Corey Ballentine, surprise release as the corresponding move. So Ballentine, a guy who we thought could compete for that cornerback 5 or 6 role in camp, especially with his special teams ability. It looks like he wasn't going to win that outside gunner spot because Tyler Goodson has it locked in. So it kind of made him expendable. And the Colts bring in yet another nickel corner in Chris Lamont, who has been here for like 3 or 4 years now, I think, with the Colts at this point.
Yeah, it's been a couple years. They didn't renew his contract at free agency, and so you figured Ballentine was his replacement, and that Ballentine and David Long would be competing for the old Chris Lamont spot. But here we go, back to where it starts.
Yeah, both those guys are gone too. Chris Lamons is back along with some other veterans. So Colts adding some veteran depth in the cornerback room with injuries piling up. Speaking of injuries, Michael Pittman Jr. missed today's practice with a groin injury. Juju Brents and Jalen Jones are still out with their hamstring injuries. Again, Shane Steichen said that Jalen Jones' hamstring is a little bit more severe than Juju Brents, so we'll have to keep an eye on how long those guys are out. They might be, Juju Brents could be back as early as next practice, but it does seem like Jalen Jones is going to be out for a little bit there. Shea Alubi missed today's practice with an ankle. He had that ankle scare yesterday, and not yesterday's practice, the last practice that the Colts had. And then he returned to practice, but it looks like it was enough to keep him out today. And then Tyquan Lewis and Danny Pinter also missed practice as well. But the biggest injury news, Jake, Zaire Franklin back in the fold. The Colts get one of their all-pro defenders back out there. And it looks like it affected this quarterback room quite a bit. Now, I'm glad that Jake added the context here. So before we go into the quarterback's numbers and why these quarterbacks struggled, they did work on red zone today and then backed up deep late in games. So those are situations where it's going to be tougher to complete some passes. I'm not using this as an excuse for these quarterbacks, but it is proper context to really talk about what happened on the field today. So with red zone, with backed up deep, completion percentage is going to come down a little bit. And it looks like both these quarterbacks came crashing down after a really big Thursday night practice the other day.
Yeah, Jim Bob Cooter after practice today basically kind of insinuated that they were also kind of like working through some things during the red zone portion, which makes it even more difficult. And that's not really what we should expect to see from the offense generally when they're in a real game situation. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, like, we'll start with Anthony. He just was not accurate at all. And even he's had 1 or 2 like really rough days of camp, really mostly one, which was last Saturday, a week ago. And even in that, I felt like it was more of like a timing thing and just not being on the same page with receivers. But he hasn't been like just inaccurate until today. Like, even easy throws were way off the mark, and it looked like how it did at points last year. I'm just considering this a little hiccup, just a little step back. I don't think it's really a sign of things to come because, again, the context being in the red zone and also just working through things that they're not going to divulge further information than that, but they don't seem concerned about it at all. And I don't want it to wipe away the fact that Anthony's had like 4 really, really, really good practices lately. So not super worried about that. Daniel Jones, 10 of 14. And, so that's pretty decent in the red zone. Overall, he had a couple touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, actually, I think. And then he had 2 interceptions, though, during 7-on-7s in the red zone, which just were not great plays. So decent in the 11-on-11s, not so much in the 7-on-7s. So again, Anthony, 4 of 10, had a short touchdown to Drew Ogletree. Did have an interception in 11-on-11s, though, on another bad pass to Kenny Moore. I thought overall, Anthony probably only had like 1 decent throw on the day, as bad as that sounds. And it was a touchdown to A.D. Mitchell in 7-on-7s. And then Daniel Jones, 10 of 14, 3 short touchdowns during 11-on-11s, 2 of them to Tyler Warren, 1 of them to Ashton Doolin, had 2 short touchdowns to Josh Downs in 7-on-7s, and the 2 interceptions. So very much a mixed bag for Jones, mostly positive. But it was definitely better than Anthony, who this was, I felt, his first truly bad day without, padding around it. It was just not a good day.
Yeah, and this feels like the first day that Daniel Jones has really made some ground up on Anthony Richardson, because I think coming into today, we'd all feel pretty good saying that Richardson has been the front runner in this quarterback competition. And even after today, we probably would still say the same thing. There's a lot of thinking heads out there that say that if this thing's even close, you default to Anthony Richardson because there's just more upside and more youth there. So this doesn't, by all accounts, like put Anthony Richardson in the doghouse and end his chance at winning the quarterback competition. But maybe it does make things a little bit more interesting, especially when you factor in, when it comes to red zone, accuracy is so important, because windows are so much tighter. And this is where you really see a quarterback like Daniel Jones having a little bit more value than Anthony Richardson, especially in a setup like practice where you're not really using the full extent of quarterback run and the running game. So it's really just on these quarterbacks to be really good, accurate passers in tight spaces. And this is where you see Daniel Jones have that advantage over Anthony Richardson. So I understand what Jim Bob Cooter is saying, where like in a real game situation, maybe Richardson looks a little bit better because, we can run him a little bit. We have Jonathan Taylor being used heavier. We'll have more diversity of things happening. But it is another just data point to add throughout this offseason. I will say something when it comes to how I view quarterbacks in the preseason and just in the offseason in general. One is, where are they getting their snaps? Are they getting snaps to the first team or the second team? That's obviously very important. And we're seeing these quarterbacks rotate. And then the thing after that is just, how are their days stacking? Are their days stacking as good days in a row or bad days in a row? And we've seen with Anthony this week, it's been 3-4 good practices in a row, and then this one really bad practice here on Saturday. What does tomorrow look like? Because if tomorrow is another bad practice that he stacks, and then we go into the joint practice on Tuesday, and that's, how it was against the Bengals last year, where that was just not a good experience for him, then I would be concerned for Anthony Richardson. We can't be stacking bad days. It's okay to have minor hiccups and minor bad days, but once you start stacking those bad days and it starts hurting your confidence, that is when we get into some issues, especially when you're in the middle of a quarterback competition with a guy like Daniel Jones, who even at his worst is fairly steady in this Colts offense. So, it's nothing terribly concerning with Anthony Richardson. I think it's more so of, how does tomorrow look? Because if tomorrow is another day that's just like this one, then we can start getting a little bit concerned and say, okay, we got to pick this thing up. But a week where he had 4 really good practices, 1 bad practice doesn't completely derail everything unless he makes it derail everything.
Right. And as much as we want to say we don't want the players to get too high, too low, we shouldn't either. That's why we're not going to barbecue him for this. But like you said, we very much need to see how he responds the next day. So our boy Kenny here asked a really good question. Was Air missing high on those misses? So for one, there was a rollout to his left where Mo Alley Cox was wide open and just like a few yards away, and he sent it to the moon, like way high for really no reason. I think he was trying to lead him, but it wasn't even in the same area code. And then the rest of them were really him throwing behind receivers, like just being very late and behind them. A lot of time the receivers were getting open, but the ball just was not where it needed to be on time. So that was mainly it. It wasn't so much that like he's like 2 yards off to the left or anything. It was just him being very late. And there was a couple of them that just weren't in the same universe of the receiver that they needed to be. So yeah, it's weird because it's just an anomaly from what we've seen, because he's been really dialed in, especially on Thursdays, the best we've ever seen him as a passer. So it was pretty interesting to see two absolute extremes of his game as a passer, like within just a couple days. But yeah, we'll see what Sunday brings.
Yeah, and look, progress is incremental. It's not always going to be night and day, and it's not going to go from 0 to 100 every single time. So we could still say he's been making progress this offseason, but not everything is going to be perfect. We don't expect him to be some 70% passer coming out this year. We'd be happy with 58% passer, with 60% passer this year. So there are still going to be stretches and moments. Again, the key is let's not stack the bad days. Let's not compound them and turn this into a trend. Get it out of your system, come back the next day, and look how you've been looking the rest of camp. So as of right now, the alarm bells aren't going off with Anthony Richardson, but it's on him to bounce back from a poor day on Saturday. But these quarterbacks, not the greatest day for either of them, but we did have some pass catchers continuing their strong play of late, including a second-year wide receiver who appears to be hitting his groove in training camp.
Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, too. It's a complete financial command center. So you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you've never gone through your statements or your online log to see what really adds up, then you ought to do it. You might be surprised. Monarch will zero in on it and maybe make your heart sink a little bit, but that's how you find out what's got to change. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. Welcome back, everydayers. We are talking Indianapolis Colts training camp day 8. And stop me if you've heard this one before this week, but AD Mitchell is on a roll. The guy is stacking positive days together. And it's not just one-on-ones. It's not just 7-on-7s. The guy is answering the bell in 11-on-11s. We all know, the issues last year. Great separator, great route runner. But once the ball got to him, he either wasn't in the right spot, bad communication with the quarterback, or he would just outright drop it. Or if it was a contested catch, he wasn't winning it. And all of those things are kind of just not what we're seeing anymore. He's catching the ball first and foremost, which is the most important thing he can do. He is where the ball should be. The ball isn't always where it's supposed to be, via the quarterback. But yeah, not a lot of contested catch opportunities so far. But when you're getting as much separation as he is, it's not always, those are rare instances anyways. So to see him doing these things in 11-on-11s and being a complete receiver, it really just kind of makes you salivate for what this offense can look like, because there's no drop off when Pittman or Downs or Alec Pierce leaves the field. You've got a guy with just as much ability as they do. Just a little more unpredictable when the ball gets to him. But as far as what he can do with the ball, more dangerous, really.
Yeah, and then my couple questions I have, because for your two standouts, I do want to probe your brain a little bit here. So with Michael Pittman Jr. missing practice, did he fill in directly in that Michael Pittman Jr. role today?
Yeah, him and Ashton Dulin split that up.
Nice. Because that, I think, is really where his best role is in the NFL. We saw his best. Yeah. His best game last year came when he filled in for Michael Pittman Jr. against the Buffalo Bills. He had, I think, 70-something yards receiving in that game. Cooked Christian Benford a couple times, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the entire league. So I do like AD Mitchell in that role. And then like what you said about the contested catches, I really want to get on that point because, with his ability to separate, like you said, Jake, he's not going to get 20 contested catch opportunities like Alec Pierce had last year. Alec Pierce, it's going to be in the 20s to 30s every single season in terms of contested catch opportunities because of where he's targeted and how he plays the game. With AD Mitchell, it's going to be like 10, and all we really need from him is come down with like 4, maybe 5. It doesn't have to be come down with all 10 because, leave that for the jump ball receivers. But when he has those opportunities, you want to see him play strong through contact and play well. How has he looked just kind of with the physicality of it this offseason, though, Jake? Because I thought that was really one of his bigger concerns as a rookie, where at the line of scrimmage, when guys got hands on him, he was a little bit, I don't want to say soft because that's such a negative connotation, but it kind of works, for lack of a better word here. And then playing through, again, the catch point, it did look a little bit like shying away from contact. Does he look a little bit more assertive as a pass catcher this year?
Yeah, I was going to say last year it looked timid. There were allegations of gator arms and all those things, which were hard to beat throughout the year. But I don't watch him and feel like he's shying away from contact. Like, there was one really good example of a play he made the other day where I was like, oh, this feels like he's kind of turning a corner. It was just like a 5-yard slant, but then there was a defender right there bearing down on him, and he immediately spun out of the defender's grasp. That, like, last year, he may not even really try to catch the ball because the guy was right there. So I think he's getting a better peripheral vision around him with, with more understanding the game is slowing down. Because we did talk to him today after practice, and we asked about that, like, things are so much different now than they were. Like, have you noticed something? And he kind of gave just a very general, like, I'm just doing my thing day to day, like studying more and all that. But then he kind of went a little deeper in the fact that he's not so much in his head as he was, because he got the opportunity to relax a little bit in the off season. In your second year, you're not worried about how you're executing the play from the playbook very much anymore because you're used to it. Like, you're not constantly in your head wondering if you're doing the right thing. And so I feel like he's got less in the back of his head now, which is allowing him to play a little more confidently and a little more free, which is a big plus. Because, again, we've mentioned this before, like in college at Texas, he did not have any problems with drops. Like, he came in with the best catch rate of any receiver of that draft last year. So we saw things come up with him as a rookie that were not problems at Texas. And it seems like he's hopefully starting to shed some of that, but we're not going to know a lot of that stuff for sure until next week against the Ravens. Cause the defenders with the Colts, they're going to get in trouble if they take his head off or are a little too rough with him. But in a game situation or in like a physical situation, like the joint practice, he doesn't know these guys. He sees Kyle Hamilton coming downhill. How's he going to react?
Right.
So I'm he's definitely a guy I want to see if this is fool's gold or not.
Yeah, for sure. And then talking about the other guy here, obviously vaunted first round pick, Tyler Warren, stacking days, stacking practices, having some really good showings. 2 touchdowns today that you mentioned from Daniel Jones. What have you seen from him so far in camp, and what did he look like today?
Yeah, so when we did our bold predictions thing a few weeks back, we talked about, I think I made mine like he's going to have 10 receiving touchdowns in the red zone this year. I ain't backing off of that one. He caught just 2 easy dump offs for touchdowns today, which seems like it'll be so routine for him. And I was talking to Coach Venturi today after one of those touchdowns. I was like, he's going to be their best pass option in the red zone, him and Josh Downs, is he not? And without question. And the way they're going to use him, again, like, not to divulge too much and get myself in trouble, but they saw what they saw at Penn State, and like, he's just going to be a very big focal point of this offense the closer they get to the goal line. And he's been a security blanket for these quarterbacks as well. There's been a couple days where the quarterbacks may not have much going on, but he's got 3 or 4 short catches with either or both of them. So he's becoming that short safety blanket. We've seen him make downfield plays. Obviously, he had the highlight the other night from that kind of wonky throw from Daniel Jones. But you're seeing an option now the Colts have that they haven't had in a while, that you see all these other teams with good tight ends have. And that's just a guy that's going to beat simple coverage down by the goal line and get an easy touchdown. Like, for as big of pass targets as they have on this offense, they don't have a lot of guys that are like goal line killers or like really good in the low red zone. And they finally have that, it looks like.
Yeah, no, for sure. And real quick, before we get out of this segment, Jake, I did want to ask you, again, I don't want to get you in trouble with talking too much about his usage here. So we'll tiptoe around this, but from what you've seen, how diverse has it been where he's lined up on this Colts offense? Because I heard Some people saying the other day, like he was getting in there as a fullback and getting some carries. I know he's been split out wide quite a bit. Has he been used like a traditional tight end in practice, or is it more so like just everywhere? Like they're lining him up all across this formation.
I've seen him everywhere.
Yeah,
I've seen them try a lot of things. I've seen them line him up everywhere. Like he's gonna get some action, especially in the red zone. Yeah,
offensive weapon. That's going to be his title.
If they could figure out, if Anthony can figure out this shovel pass to Tyler Golden, because he would be a great shovel pass option, but I've seen it twice and it's gone very poorly both times. So
yeah, I will say
I think the quarterback will matter also.
Yeah, maybe Anthony's like me because I think the shovel pass is like my least favorite play in football. I'm very happy that he sucks at it, so that we can maybe never run it if Anthony starts this year, because I like Tyler Warren getting the ball, but not in that tight quarter space up the middle like that on a shovel pass. I hate shovel passes, so maybe Anthony's just a plant here for my own agenda when it comes to shovel passes.
Well,
but
it's like the shortest possible pass, so of course he's not with it,
That's true. All right, guys, we've talked enough about the offense on today's show. So coming up, we are going to transition over to the defense and how, after a really rough Thursday, the Colts got their dogs back on defense and they won the day in the red zone.
All right, y'all, it's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with your friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. It's hard to narrow down a favorite golf day memory for me, just to one, unless you've drilled a hole-in-one, which I have not done. But everyone who golfs knows that you could play like garbage all day, again, like me, but one great shot is all it takes to reel you back in. Honestly, golf is one of the most toxic relationships that you could possibly have in life, but 5 Hour Energy is here to see you through it. Otherwise, golf's all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5 Hour Energy, if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off of your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Welcome back to the show, everydayers. We are talking day 8 of Colts training camp. Moving on to the defense, but Zach, my deepest apologies. We didn't have time to get our Riley Leonard highlight in.
That was planned by me.
Beautiful. Okay. Riley Leonard hit Will Mallory on a goal line fade today. Cut. End of scene. Defense. Okay. All right. Okay. So Zaire Franklin was back today, but he was not in on any of the team stuff. Just did positional stuff. However, very interesting timing, and I'm trying not to look too much into this, but these next several days are going to be very, very telling. Jalen Carlisle was really just with the twos today. It was Cam McGrone and Joe Bocci at the two starting linebacker spots. And, I saw Lou talking to Carlisle out there at times today. And after practice, again, we talked to the coordinators, and I asked Lou, I was like, how open is – I was like, Zaire's coming back. And mind you, I told you the other day I asked him about Bocci and Zaire coming back. So I was like, how open is linebacker outside of Zaire? And he did not say that it's not open. He said they're still evaluating things. And he said, I think Lou very much takes value in the preseason games and like what happens when the lights come on. Because he deferred like 3 or 4 answers today to, we're going to see how a lot of this stuff goes when the preseason games start. And I'm beginning to think that linebacker is more open than we thought.
I made the bold prediction, Jake, of Joe Bocci being the second most snaps. And that was before all the beat guys saw him in practice. So look, I'm not taking my victory lap yet.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, just knowing what we know from Lou Anarumo, a veteran that's worked in his scheme for years is
Mhm.
always going to have the advantage over a younger player. Always, when it comes to him. So I'm not shocked whatsoever that Bocce is getting this opportunity. Speaking of Joe Bocce, it looks like he had an interception today. So he was really backing up that faith that Lou Anarumo is having in him if he ends up being that second linebacker. So we will certainly see there. What else stood out to you, though, today, Jake? I see a couple interceptions and some near picks from the secondary. You
Yep.
had to get in some more Solomon to Shields love because you always try to sneak in a little bit of Solomon to Shields. Look, we know Will Mallory hype is coming every episode.
Oh,
We
yeah.
know Riley Leonard's getting his one play every episode. You have to talk about the stinking kickers every episode. But now you're starting to make Solomon to Shields a little bit about your brand as well, Jake.
Well, Joe Bocce's kind of been my linebacker
Right.
crush this year, but he's very much out in the open. So, take that for what you will. But, the other day, DeShields got in for, I think it was a run stuff. And today, he kind of blew up a screen against DJ Giddens. So that was good. So, yeah, I told you guys about the interceptions earlier. So let's add some context to it. At one point during 11-on-11s in the red zone, Anthony held onto the ball for a while, ran to his right and tried to fire one into Josh Downs. But you guys might have saw the picture on Twitter. The Colts posted it. That was Kenny Moore's interception that he came down with. And then Daniel Jones threw 2 during 7-on-7s, again, down the red zone, threw one to Bocce right at the goal line, and then threw one to Nick Cross in the end zone like a couple plays later. So the back seven was on it coming down with those interceptions today. Again, your daily Joe Bocce highlight. There were some good plays from the front seven as well. DeForest Buckner got a run stuff against DJ Giddens at one point. The touchdown that Anthony had to Drew Ogletree during 11s really probably shouldn't have happened because JT Tuamaloau got to him like 2 whole seconds before that ball came out. So I gave Tuamaloau a sack on that one as well. And then Jonathan Edwards, we kind of, mentioned briefly, or you and I might have been talking about it off air earlier. He's been getting more valuable reps as these cornerback injuries kind of pile up and they work in these new guys a little bit. So Edwards did get a nice little pass breakup in the end zone against A.D. Mitchell. I think it was Anthony on the throw. So there's been some rocky moments for him. He's been on the business end of some highlights, but a nice play at least there for him today. And then let's see, Hunter Wohler. He has been arguably the most physical player in camp, but after practice today, he said the fact that coaches haven't had to tell him to chill out yet is a bad thing, and that he plans on getting more physical. So we got a real meathead on our hands here that I think fans are going to like.
Oh, man, with Shigua Alubi kind of being banged up right now, Hunter Wohler is taking the crown from. That means Alubi's going to come back just a bad man here when he's back on the field. Yeah, because maybe it's because was it always Goodson that he was lighting up, or was it? No, it was Evan Hull, wasn't it? We need Evan Hull back, and then Shigua Alubi could have his personal beef with someone.
Well, Alubi and Wohler together on the second team defense. Like, sorry, Ravens, it's coming.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. Lamar Jackson's gonna be wearing a very red jersey in those practices just to make sure Hunter Wohler knows where he is.
Whoever their backup is
in
the game is in trouble because
they're
not.
Cooper Rush, man.
Is it Cooper Rush?
It's Cooper Rush. They signed him this offseason, so
all right.
We will have to see how Cooper Rush fares against Hunter Wohler. We have a comment here that says Bounty Hunter Wohler.
Yep.
That's actually a great nickname.
Yeah. All right, Zach, you want to know how the kicking competition's going yet?
No. Actually, before we get to kicking, though, I did have a quick question about defense, and then I'll let you do your kicker. I always try to run it late so you could never talk kicker, but don't worry, I'll let you get it in today. I was doing like a hot and cold and kind of where these competitions are leaning so far in training camp. So we think Anthony Richardson is like the slight lean at quarterback right now. Tanner Bortolini, maybe the slight lean at center. It's really hard to gauge where that one's at right now, but I would say Bortolini just slightly.
And Pinter did miss today. We don't know what it is. I'm waiting to hear back on what it is, but he could just be out today. But I mean, that obviously gives Bort a little bit of a leg up.
And then I think the one I wanted to kind of ask you about, and I think I already know your answer, but it has to be Justin Wally with a pretty heavy lean at outside corner. Not like even just off the play alone, it felt like he was the guy that they were leaning there. But now with these 2 injuries, it feels like he's like definitively in the driver's seat to be the cornerback 2 this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to once Jones and Brents get back, they're not going to put someone out there who doesn't give them the best chance to succeed. But we both said all offseason, it very much seemed like they just were looking for any reason to make Wally the starter. And I mean, you hate to give a guy a spot just because of injuries, but he's taken every first team rep, like pretty much since the spring, essentially. So with Jones and Brents in there, I didn't think that Wally was like a shoe-in for the starting role, because I thought they were just trying to give him a ton of reps to see how he responded and where he best fit. But now with both of them out, like, it's him and Kenny Moore are like the only guys that they can like hang their hat on right now. Charvarius Ward's missed a couple days. He was out the back half of today. They said it's not injury related, so you take it for what it's worth. And he had a rest day the other day, so he's at least taking a lot of rest days. So like Wally and Kenny Moore are the guys that you kind of got to hang your hat on being around the most right now.
Yeah. And then speaking of definitive battles right now in training camp, it feels like Spencer Schrader is close to locking up this kicker battle. So I'll kick it to you, Jake, and I'll walk out of the room, talk about the kickers for a second.
No, it seems like the responsible thing to do right now is for Schrader to be given the kicker job. And Brian Mason said today, once we start to see one guy getting a lot more reps than the other, that's kind of how we'll know who is getting it. But Schrader, I think Mason said he's about 85% through camp, whereas Trujillo is about 74. And again, Trujillo gives me much more practice squad vibes right now. Like, he might develop into what they think a year or so away, but he's very hot and cold right now. And I don't think you can pin the kicking game on a guy who looks like this right now. Spencer Schrader has played in the NFL. He is kicking better right now. He's 3 of 4 today, makes from 36, 39, and 44. Had a doink from 52 off the left upright, and left seems to be the spot that he misses from, and he doesn't miss them bad. If he misses, it's usually a doink. Trujillo was 2 of 3, makes from 36 and 52. Missed very wide left from 44 yards out. So, yeah, that's about where the kicker position stands. I would say Schrader's got an edge. And I do have another special teams note for you outside of the kicking competition.
Finally, some real content.
Yeah,
finally,
so
Locked On
we
Colts.
mentioned
Give me real content.
Daniel Scott's been getting most of the personal punt protector reps. Hunter Wooler got some today. Daniel Scott still got some of them, but I feel like Hunter Wooler got most of the personal protector reps today, which they're going to need. I mean, he's making the roster. They're going to need someone else other than Rodney Thomas and Daniel Scott who can do it. They need to probably have 3 solid guys options there. Other than that, the returners were the same. The gunners were the same, Goodson and Doolin. And then Anthony Gould has no competition. The only other guy who ever fields punts is Coleman Owen, and he's not making the team. So that's it, man. I think, Wooler we already felt was pretty safe, but Daniel Scott and Rodney Thomas feel like it's probably going to carry 5 safeties.
Sweet. Awesome. That sounds good. That's a good practice right up there. We have the quarterback struggling a little bit, some of the offensive players standing out, and the defense winning the day with quite a few highlights across the board. And then I guess a kicker update at the very end of the show as well. As always, you can always skip that part, guys. It doesn't matter nearly as much, but who am I to say?
Points, man. They score points.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. As always, though, we do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have the daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or listen to your podcast. If you guys want to come on Locked On Colts Insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or if you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.